My name is Brooke. I'm 33 years old and the CEO of a major medical supply company in Seattle. For the past 10 years, I've poured everything into building my career, working through weekends, accepting last-minute business trips, and sacrificing every vacation just to climb the ladder. I have no husband, no kids, and no time for casual relationships. To my coworkers, I'm the cold woman who arrives first and leaves last. But to my family, I'm simply the stand-in. I'm the eldest of three sisters. Madison, 27, is a preschool teacher in the suburbs of Spokane, married with twin boys. Natalie, the youngest, is 25, newly married, and 6 months pregnant. They both live near our parents' home in Tacoma and have one obvious thing in common. Whenever they need a babysitter, they call me. Can you watch the kids this Saturday? I've heard that question at least 30 times this past year. Sometimes it's when I'm preparing for an important presentation, sometimes right after a grueling 18-hour flight, but I always say yes. As a child, I was independent. My mom often left me to handle things on my own while she focused on Madison's allergies or helped Natalie learn to read. In college, I earned a full scholarship and worked my way through without depending on anyone. But that capable eldest who never needs help image became an excuse for everyone to assume I could always give more. Remember last year on Mom's birthday? I woke up at 5 a.m. to bake a cake, prep dinner, pick up my nephews from school, and wrap gifts for Madison. When the party started, I was in the kitchen slicing fruit while Madison and Natalie laughed with relatives in the living room. My mom said one thing. "Brooke is always so thoughtful. I'm proud of you." But that pride never came with real understanding. And me? I haven't had a real vacation in 4 years. The last time I booked a trip to Hawaii with a coworker, Madison got the flu and called asking if I could just help out for 3 days. The ticket was canceled, vacation gone. I don't resent my nephews. In fact, I love them more than I can admit. But that love shouldn't be exploited, especially when it's treated like a duty. I started realizing this on a Tuesday morning during a video call when Natalie kept blowing up my phone. I answered, worried something was wrong, only to hear her casually say, "Can you come watch Minnie? I've got a spa appointment with a friend." I paused, then gave a dry laugh. "You're calling me in the middle of a meeting? For that?" Natalie giggled. "You're single. What could you be busy with?" I set my phone on the table. That line, careless but familiar, cut deeper than it should. In their eyes, no family, no kids, meant my life didn't matter. No one asked if I was tired. No one cared if I had a life of my own. They just saw me as the one always available. And that made me invisible. I began wondering, if one day I disappeared from this cycle of responsibility, would anyone in my family even notice? I was preparing to present the quarterly report at work when my phone kept vibrating. It was Madison. She rarely called during business hours unless it was something urgent, like, "Brooke, the kids are sick, can you pick them up?" I muted my laptop and answered, "Hey, what's up? How are you?" Madison's voice was sweet as honey. "Just a tiny thing. I wanted to ask." I sighed, staying calm. "What is it?" "You know Mom's turning 60 soon, right? We're planning something really special for her. Everyone's pitching in for something unforgettable, but it's a little pricey." She paused, like she was waiting for my automatic yes. I bit my lip. "How much?" "Oh, around $4,500, she said like it was coffee money. "But don't worry, Natalie and I already chipped in. You just need to send about $3,000 to cover the rest." I nearly dropped my phone. That's nearly a full month's rent for my downtown Seattle apartment. $3,000? Are we hiring a rock band? Madison laughed. "No, but this is a big moment, and you know Mom's always dreamed of having everyone together. Can you transfer it?" I looked at my computer screen, where the hospital budget glowed red. I'd planned a trip to Colorado in March, but clearly that plan would have to wait. Like, always. All right, I said, voice flat. Send me the details. A moment later, I got the message. Then Madison added, "Oh, and make sure you take the whole week off, from the 12th to the 18th. Don't book any business trips. There's a full schedule of stuff." I nodded, robotically. Okay. Everything happened so fast, I didn't even get to ask, what's the plan, where is it, or why a full week? But as usual, I stayed quiet. They were used to that. The next week, I tried to bring it up during calls, but Madison and Natalie kept dodging. "We're still finalizing the details, almost done. You just need to save your energy to play with the kids," Madison said offhandedly during a FaceTime call, bouncing a crying baby in her arms. I started feeling uneasy. No one told me the plan clearly. I didn't receive an email or even get added to a group chat about Mom's birthday. Everything I knew was vague and fragmented. Then, at a weekend dinner at our parents' house, the truth came out. I had just placed a salad bowl on the table when Natalie clapped her hands. "Big news, everyone. It's official. Next week, we're all staying at Moonberry Lodge in Montana. Snow everywhere, hot springs, and private cabins." The table erupted. Mom beamed, Dad patted Madison's back, and the sisters started chatting about what color ski jackets to bring. I froze. "Wait," I said weakly. "Moonberry Lodge? No one told me the location or actual dates. I haven't even booked a flight." Madison hesitated and looked at Natalie. The energy dipped. Mom cleared her throat and turned to me, her eyes distant. "Well, Brooke, the thing is, everything's been arranged. The kids need someone, and we really want Mom to relax without any worries, so could you do the family a huge favor?" I set my water glass down. "You mean everyone's going to Montana and I stay behind? Watching 5 kids?" Natalie gave a nervous smile. "You know the kids love you, and honestly, you don't really know anyone there. You'd be bored up in the mountains." I was stunned. In that moment, it was all clear. I had been excluded from the start. The money I sent helped pay for their trip, while I, the biggest contributor, was never included. To them, I was free, dependable, unattached, the perfect unpaid nanny. No one noticed the shift in my expression. Or maybe they did and just ignored it. The room fell into a strange silence when I asked quietly, "Did any of you think that maybe this time?" I'd say no. No one answered. Madison picked at her salad like it was the most fascinating thing in the world. Natalie toyed with her fork. Mom sighed, playing the role of the helpless mother with the difficult daughter. I straightened my back and clutched the napkin on my lap. "So, everything's already planned? Tickets booked, itinerary set, and not one person thought to ask if I wanted to be part of it?" My dad looked up from his wine, muttering, "You wouldn't enjoy it anyway. It's cold, crowded, noisy. You like peace and quiet." I laughed, a bitter, hollow laugh. "So, because I don't have a husband or kids, I'm automatically excluded? Just because I'm different from my sisters, I don't qualify as part of this vacation?" "Don't be so sensitive," Mom said flatly. "They trust you with the kids because you're good at it. Everyone has their role." "My role?" I repeated, locking eyes with her. "And what exactly is my role? The one who pays and babysits so my sisters can relax?" Natalie looked up, annoyed. "You act like we're exploiting you. We have our own families and stress too. It's just 1 week. It's not like you don't have the time." "It's not about not having time," I said, gripping my hands, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's about not being asked, not being invited, not being treated like I'm part of the plan." Mom shook her head and let out a long sigh. "Brooke, you're always like this, always making yourself out to be the victim." I pushed my chair back and leaned closer to the table. "No, I'm not a victim, but I'm also not some invisible helper you call in whenever the family needs someone to sacrifice." I turned and walked out of the dining room. Everyone stayed seated. No one followed. No apology. Not even a glance of remorse. As I grabbed my coat by the door, I heard Mom mutter just loud enough for me to hear, "She'll cool off in a few days. She always does." I shut the door. But this time, I didn't cool off. That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced around my apartment, thinking of all the times I canceled dates because Natalie needed a sitter. The sleepless nights when Madison called me to rush and pick up the boys. Holidays where I was alone in the kitchen while everyone else laughed in the living room. And now, when I finally spoke up, they called me too sensitive. The next morning, I made coffee, opened my laptop, and typed in, "Quiet beachfront resort in March." I didn't know where I was going yet, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't staying here to babysit for a trip I wasn't even invited to. I pulled up my phone and checked my schedule for that week. I was about to block off vacation time, just like they asked. But for the first time in years, I thought differently. I would take that time off, but not to babysit, and not in this city. I booked a flight. Nothing extravagant, but just enough to feel like I was finally doing something for myself. A sunny beach, a hotel with an ocean view, and no one expecting me to explain why I wasn't answering my phone. I typed out my time off request email, then stared at the screen. It felt like I was reclaiming a part of myself I'd forgotten existed. They'll be shocked, they'll be angry, they'll call me ungrateful, but this time, I don't care. I've spent my whole life living for others. It's time to live for me. Sunday morning, I sat by my living room window, watching the Seattle sunlight filter through sheer curtains. After a sleepless night, my mind felt clear. Icy clear. I wasn't confused anymore. I knew exactly one thing. I was done being the sacrificing eldest sister. I called Mom. She picked up on the third ring. "Brooke?" she said, her voice flat. "I've thought about next week's vacation," I began, keeping my tone calm but firm. "I won't be staying behind to babysit." Silence. "Instead," I continued, "I'll be hiring a certified, well-reviewed professional sitter. That way the kids are cared for safely, and everyone else can still enjoy the trip." "No," Mom replied slowly, her voice suddenly sharp. "You're hiring a stranger to watch the kids. You think they'll be comfortable with someone they don't know?" "I need rest too, Mom," I said. "And if this trip is really about everyone enjoying themselves, then this is the most reasonable solution." "No," she cut me off. "It's not reasonable at all. You have time. You have the means. Why avoid helping when you clearly could?" I bit my lip. "Because this isn't helping anymore. It's being taken advantage of." Before I could say more, she hung up. Not 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. "Natalie." "What the hell are you doing?" she snapped as soon as I picked up. "I'm finding a way for everyone to enjoy the trip without someone being the sacrificial lamb," I said, keeping my voice level. "No one's making you sacrifice anything," she yelled. "You act like we're nailing you to a cross. Meanwhile, we're juggling kids and houses, and you—" "And me what?" I cut in, feeling heat rise to my face. "Because I don't have a husband or kids? I don't get to be tired? I don't get to take a vacation? I don't deserve to be treated like a real family member?" Natalie scoffed. "You're being dramatic. You always think the world revolves around you." "No, Natalie, this isn't drama. This is me finally seeing my own worth, and I won't let anyone treat me like a tool again." There was a pause on the other end, then her voice turned cold. "If you refuse to help, don't be surprised when the whole family turns their back on you. Mom's crying, you know. Hope you're happy." Ihana. My hand trembled as I set the phone down, but for the first time in years, it wasn't from guilt or fear. It was from finally breaking free of the invisible cage I had locked myself into. All day, I got no more calls, but texts poured in like a storm. From Madison. "I can't believe you'd ruin Mom's birthday like this, after everything she's done for you." From Natalie. "If Mom's blood pressure spikes because of this, will you be able to sleep at night?" From Aunt Helen. The eldest has a duty to support the younger ones. Don't forget your roots, Brooke. To read every line, each one like a paper cut. But instead of pain, I felt relief. I didn't reply. Instead, I confirmed my hotel reservation by the beach in Santa Monica, full spa package included. I made a reading list, booked a sunrise walking tour, and most importantly, I turned off my phone. Airplane mode. That night, I lit candles, put on soft jazz, and cooked myself a proper meal. No crying babies, no, "Can you just help me real quick?" No invisible weight pressing on my shoulders like it was just expected. I don't know what will happen next. But I know one thing for sure. I'm no longer the person they can boss around and expect unquestioned obedience from. 2 days later, I stepped off the plane in San Diego, salty sea breeze kissing my face like a gentle hug from freedom. I had picked California over Florida at the last minute, simply because I wanted to do something completely unexpected, even for myself. I rented a small ocean view apartment in La Jolla, quiet enough to rest, lively enough to keep me from feeling alone. I walked in with a small suitcase and a crossbody bag. I didn't need much. This time, I wasn't packing diaper bags, snacks, or coloring books. Just sunscreen, an unread novel, and a new pair of flip-flops. I opened the balcony door, took a deep breath, and for the first time in years, there were no calls, no texts from family. No, "Brooke, can you?" The next morning, I walked along the beach, each step pressing into the damp sand. The sun rose slowly, casting streaks of amber and gold across the water. I sat on a wooden bench facing the ocean, sipping my coffee and thinking of no one but myself. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty about it. I spent my first day exploring Old Town San Diego, where cobblestone streets led me past rows of little shops selling handmade goods. I bought a silver bracelet engraved with the word Libertà, freedom, in Italian. The shopkeeper smiled when I said, "This is the first time I've ever treated myself." That evening, I dined at a seafood restaurant by the bay. Sitting alone in the cozy space, I felt peace settling into every part of me. No one needed me to wipe a crying child's face. No one interrupted to talk about home repairs or marriage drama. No one saw me as the default backup plan. On the morning of day 3, I checked my phone. No missed calls from Mom, but the voicemail inbox was full. Nearly 100 messages, mostly from Madison, Natalie, and a few relatives. The first few lines lit up the screen. "Natalie, where are you? We already dropped the kids off at your place." Madison, "How far are you planning to push this, Brooke?" "Mom, you didn't even tell anyone. I'm so disappointed." I set my phone down like a finished book. I wasn't angry, just amazed that they still didn't understand. Or maybe never wanted to. That I was no longer living by their script. I turned on the TV, picked a soft documentary, and sat down with my favorite bowl of cereal. The messages kept coming, but I didn't open another. By day 4, I set my phone to permanent silent. That afternoon, I rented a bike and rode along Pacific Beach. The ocean wind whipped my hair, sunlight warmed my cheeks, and I smiled, truly smiled, for the first time since that awful dinner. Freedom, like a gift I'd never dared to give myself before. On the evening of day 5, I sat on the balcony watching the sunset when I thought of the kids. Jake's big round eyes, Lily's gap-toothed grin, the way Sophie clung to my shirt whenever she was scared. I missed them. But I didn't miss being expected to sacrifice. I missed the moments I gave willingly, not the ones I was guilted into. I knew that one day they'd grow up and wonder why Aunt Brooke didn't come around much anymore. I hoped by then they'd understand that love doesn't mean silent endurance, and that a woman who says no isn't cruel. She's brave. On the morning of day 6, I packed early, ready to return to Seattle, not because I missed home, but because I was ready. Ready to face them, ready to speak, ready to draw the line. On the flight back, I stared out the window as the ocean and sky blurred behind me. I knew that once I stepped off the plane, I would no longer be the same Brooke they once knew. And that felt perfectly okay. The morning I returned to Seattle, my phone exploded with notifications as soon as I stepped out of the airport. After nearly a week powered off, it buzzed non-stop like a warning siren for the storm ahead. I unlocked the screen. First message from Madison. "Where are you? We went to your place and no one was there. Jake and Mason are getting cranky." Then from Natalie. "Is this some kind of joke? You knew we had to leave." Then from Mom. "Brooke, please call me. I don't understand what's going on." I got into the taxi, watching the flood of messages continue. "You expect us to haul all these suitcases and 5 kids to God knows where? Madison, I can't believe you actually did this. Natalie, I'm very disappointed in you." Mom. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Every reason, every explanation I had prepared, suddenly buried under a wave of exhaustion. I'd barely lived for myself for 1 week, and already they were trying to pull me back into that old role. The fixer, the substitute, the responsible one. When I got home, my mailbox was stuffed, not with letters, but sticky notes plastered on the door. "We came by, but you weren't here." Mom cried. The kids asked why Aunt Brooke wasn't home. Even Aunt Frances, who I only saw at Christmas, had left a message. "You've disrupted the whole trip. Your mother can't sleep now." I stepped inside, took off my shoes, hung my coat. Everything was just as I left it. Neat, quiet, no screaming children, no complaints. And most importantly, no one treating me like the default solution for the family's problems. I opened my phone again, this time listening to the voicemails. Natalie's voice came through, sharp as a blade. Do you even realize how betrayed Mom feels? The whole family is ashamed in front of our relatives. Everyone was counting on you, and you just disappeared like we meant nothing." Then Madison's whisper, tight with rage. "You ruined the vacation we'd been planning for months. Jake's been crying for Aunt Brooke. How do you sleep at night?" I didn't reply to any of them. I didn't apologize either, because what they really missed wasn't me. It was the version of me who followed orders without question. That night, I opened a bottle of wine. The city glittered as always beyond my balcony, but to me, everything had shifted. In the silence of my little apartment, I knew I had crossed a threshold. Not a threshold of rebellion, but one of freedom. The next morning, while watering my plants on the patio, a message came in from Mom. "If you feel like you're no longer part of this family, then I don't know what else to say." I set the phone down. For the first time in my life, those words didn't sting, because I knew. Real family doesn't manipulate through guilt. Real family is built on understanding and the choice to stand beside each other, not unconditional demands. I opened my laptop, signed up for a night photography class. Then I searched for a summer tour through Europe. I didn't ask for anyone's input. I didn't wait for permission, I just did it. Because I wanted to. Less than 24 hours after I returned home, I was making tea in the kitchen when I heard a rattle at the front door. At first, I thought someone had the wrong address, but then the lock turned with a distinct, deliberate click. I stepped into the hallway just as the door swung open. My mother stood there, still holding the emergency key I gave her years ago. "Just in case," she once said. Behind her were Madison and Natalie, all 3 of them red-faced from cold, anger, or both. "How long were you planning to avoid us?" Mom asked, no greeting, no explanation, her voice as cold as the frost outside. I didn't invite them in, but they walked straight through the doorway, like this home was part of their map of control. Madison dropped her bag onto the chair, planted her hands on her hips, and glared. "You left 5 kids without warning. We were standing at your door in the snow, no message, no apology. You think that's okay?" I crossed my arms and leaned on the kitchen counter. No one asked if I agreed. You made plans, assigned roles, and gave me the hardest job, then got angry when I didn't play along. Is that what's normal to you? Natalie jumped in, face flushed. You used to help. When did you become so heartless? I looked at my sister, my voice low. When helping became expected. When I realized that if I didn't say no this time, I might never have the right to say it at all. Mom stood, arms crossed, eyes scanning my apartment like she was judging every corner. Then she spoke, slowly but sharp as glass. I never thought you'd turn into this kind of person, Brooke. You used to be the pride of this family. I laughed. Not loud, not bitter. Just the hollow laugh of someone finally setting a burden down. If I was the pride of the family, then why was I always the first one chosen to sacrifice? Why has no one ever asked if I wanted to be part of what was happening? Or is it that, to you, I only matter when I'm useful? Madison kicked the chair hard, her voice sharp. You ruined the trip. Mom couldn't fully enjoy it, the whole family's a mess, and I had to stay home watching the kids alone, all because of you. I looked Madison straight in the eyes, unwavering. And what do you think I've been doing all these years? Who watched your kids when you were sick? Who cooked every time there was a family gathering? Who canceled personal plans because Natalie had a last-minute spa appointment? You've gotten so used to receiving that when it stops, you call it betrayal. Natalie stepped forward, her eyes welling up. You've changed. You didn't used to be this cold. No, I said softly. I haven't changed. I've just stopped tolerating it. No one spoke for a few seconds. The silence in the small room echoed like a wake-up bell. Finally, my mother broke the silence. If you truly see this family as such a burden, then maybe I was wrong to believe you were the one holding us all together. I nodded, my gaze calm. No, you weren't wrong to count on me, but you were wrong to treat that as a permanent obligation. Mom turned away, her eyes no longer meeting mine. If that's your choice, I have nothing more to say. Madison and Natalie said nothing either. They picked up their bags, signaling it was time to go. No hug, no touch of the hand. The door closed behind them with a deep, final thud. Not dramatic, not loud, but heavy. I stood still for a moment. No tears, no guilt. Just lightness. I walked back to the table, poured myself a fresh cup of tea, and looked out the window. Outside, the snow was beginning to melt. The fading white patches revealed soft green grass underneath. I knew this winter would end differently. Not with collapse, but with release. Not with a breakup, but a rebirth. A week after that confrontation, I picked up my phone and quietly left the family group chat. No message, no explanation. I simply hit leave group and exhaled. No massage, no peeing in response, no calls asking why. Just silence. The kind that says if they can't control me anymore, I no longer matter. Began to rebuild my life, for the first time not revolving around anyone else's schedule or emotions. Every morning, I woke up early, made coffee, and wrote in a notebook. What do I want today? The answers changed daily. Some days a walk in the park, others trying a new restaurant, some days just reading until sunset. And no one had the right to interrupt. I signed up for a Thursday night art class, something I once thought was a luxury because I had to keep my phone nearby just in case something happened with the kids. Now, I painted freely, without masking tired eyes behind cheerful portraits. On weekends, I visited art exhibits, joined a book club, went to concerts alone without making excuses to anyone. And I realized, being alone wasn't nearly as scary as I'd once been taught to believe. I also started planning my European trip in June. Paris, Florence, then Amsterdam. 3 dream destinations I'd wanted to visit since college, but never thought I deserved. This time, I asked no one's opinion. I didn't wait for approval. I booked the flights, printed the itinerary, and stuck it on my fridge like a promise. This life is mine. My social media changed, too. No more blurry photos of someone else's kid's birthday party. No more captions like, "so much fun," when I was barely holding it together. Now, it was pictures of me with a glass of wine on a rooftop, sunsets by the sea, the first painting I finished in class. And the smile in those photos wasn't forced anymore. I still missed my mother. I missed those afternoons baking apple pies together, the way she gently pulled a blanket over me when I fell asleep on the couch. But I also couldn't forget her cold eyes the day she said, "If that's your choice, then I have nothing more to say." Some relationships break not from lack of love, but from lack of respect. And I had stopped looking for love where fairness no longer lived. One late March afternoon, I was sitting in a little cafe in Fremont when I saw a mother and daughter pass by the window. The little girl tugged her mom's hand, giggling, and the mother bent down to stroke her hair with eyes full of warmth. The sight tightened my chest, but also melted something gently inside me. I realized I hadn't lost a family. I'd lost a version of family that never truly saw me. And now, I had the chance to create a different kind, one that starts with myself. That night, I pulled up my phone, opened emergency contacts, and removed my mother's number. Not out of hatred, but because I no longer wanted to live as someone's backup plan. I added a new contact instead. Marissa, a friend from my art class. She's a photographer who once backpacked solo across Iceland. "If you need a travel buddy for Florence, I'm in," she'd said. My heart felt warmer. My life no longer revolved around midnight "hey sis" texts or last-minute babysitting requests between meetings. It now included on-time dinners, uninterrupted sleep, and honest conversations. Unpressured and uncompromised. I don't know if Mom will ever come knocking again, or if Madison and Natalie will ever understand what I've been through. But I do know this. If they return, I'll greet them calmly, but there will be no more default sacrifices. One April morning, sitting by the window of my apartment, sunlight spilled through the sheer curtains like silk, and it hit me. I had finally stepped through a threshold I'd never dared approach before. I used to believe that choosing myself was selfish, that if I wasn't always willing to sacrifice, if I wasn't always available when my family called, I was a bad person. I spent my youth confusing love with duty, volunteering with obligation. But now, everything was clearer than ever. I'm not selfish for living for myself. I'm simply respecting myself, as I always had the right to. I remembered how I felt during those first days in San Diego. Awkward, hollow, guilty. But over time, every small moment of freedom taught me that a person's worth isn't measured by how much they sacrifice for others. It's by how honestly they live for themselves. The family's silence no longer hurt me. In fact, it gave me room to heal, to rewrite my story without the distortions of others' expectations. I made a list of all the things I gave up for others: canceled trips, forgotten hobbies, dreams I once labeled unrealistic. Now, I'm picking them back up, piece by piece, building a new picture of a woman who knows she deserves happiness without asking for permission. I started scheduling small weekend getaways, tulip fields in Skagit Valley, light hikes at Rattlesnake Ledge, local farmers markets. I set a goal to try one new thing each month, no matter how small, no matter how silly, as long as it made me smile. One day, sitting at my favorite cafe, I overheard a girl at the next table whisper to her friend, "I'm scared that if I say no to my family, they'll think I'm selfish." I smiled to myself. I knew that feeling, and I knew that overcoming it was the hardest, most freeing thing in the world. If I could say one thing to that girl, I'd say, "You're not selfish for choosing yourself. You're living your truth, and you don't need to apologize for that." Realized, deep down, I never wanted to cut ties with my family. I just couldn't keep up a relationship where love came with conditions, where sacrifice was expected without question. If one day they want to understand, I'll welcome them. But if not, I won't look back. Because from now on, I'm not living to prove my worth to anyone. I'm living to savor each moment, to build a life I can be proud of. I'm learning to love myself patiently, gently, without judgment. And I've learned that's the strongest foundation for any future relationship. Not silent sacrifice, but willing connection between free, whole people. Summer's approaching. I've booked a flight to Florence, ready to begin the dream journey through Italy. No one planned this for me. No messages asking, "Brooke, can you?" interrupting every second of freedom. Before leaving Seattle, I left a small note on my kitchen counter, just for me. "Welcome home, Brooke. You finally chose yourself. This time, I know for sure. It's the best decision I've ever made." Brooke's story is a powerful reminder that loving yourself isn't selfish. It's essential. In a world that glorifies silent sacrifice, especially from women, setting boundaries and saying no is an act of bravery. Brooke stepped away from her default family role to reclaim her identity and build a life that no longer depends on others' approval. She chose to live honestly, fully, and above all, for herself. What do you think of Brooke's decision? Was she too firm? Or was this the only way to truly protect her peace? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful family stories like this one.